Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the 5-1 Volleyball Podcast, the best place to follow the world of men's professional volleyball. Joined again today here live. Finally, we're back in the studio with Everett DeLorme, Volleyball Source. Everett, how are you doing?
Great. Now that we're back in the studio. We've had not only have we not been in the studio, but we've also had some technical difficulties in the past couple of weeks. We've had some fire alarms. We've had a lot of issues. So I'm glad that we're back in person and that this is going to be way easier now.
Yeah. Don't try and record podcasts on a 8-year-old Dell XPS with a Core i5. Is the lesson I think we learned from last weekend. But
yeah,
we put the episode up eventually last week. I gave a bit of an intro, but I think we're all going to be good for technology here. We've got a few good topics to cover here today. Of course, Those crazy Italian league matches, both series now 2-1. We're going to talk a little Plus Liga semis. And of course, it's the 5-1 Volleyball Podcast. So we've got a fun topic here at the end, the top European clubs across all the leagues. So, Everett, let's get into it with the Italian league here.
Yeah. A couple of fun semifinals. Let's be honest here. The past two matches, I was not expecting I was expecting a much different outcome for both of them, right? Like, we knew that Leal wasn't going to be playing in the Modena versus Perugia match, and still, like as we were talking about it before, like we started the show. I watched the first two sets, had to go to work afterwards, so I left thinking that Perugia is going to be able to close this out. You know, they're going to win 3-0, maybe 3-1, and it's going to be 2-1. Leal's going to come back, and then they're going to push it for 5. But then they ended up taking it. And on the other side, Trentino just looked like they had been trucking along. They won 6 sets in a row in matches 1 and 2. Looked like they're going to be able to close it out, but it was a complete 180 from that. Complete demolition by Lube. Lucarelli, who we have to talk about, was on an absolute mission. And yeah, so just when I thought I knew, there was everything that I knew everything there was to know about the Italian League playoffs, everything just gets kind of turned on the head, which is amazing, and I love it.
And I'm really happy about this because we got some good series now. It's going to be a really fun weekend of volleyball. Let's start maybe with the more interesting for me match, which was Modena versus Perugia.
Mm-hmm.
An incredible match.
Great match.
Back and forth.
From what I understand.
Yeah, unfortunately, you didn't get to watch all of it live. But yeah, Modena coming back, they were down 2-0. There are several match points here. Namir Abdelaziz scoring, 41? 41. So, yeah, another absolute classic. One of the matches of the season so far. What do you think Modena did differently in the last 3 sets to win than the first 2 which they lost?
Well, I don't know. You tell me.
Okay.
I didn't watch it.
Okay.
So what do you think they did differently?
Let me wait as I pull up my notes here. 1 second here.
You got some pretty specific notes there. Damn.
Yeah.
I need to up my game. God.
Okay, so yeah, we had a crazy second set there. Incredible defense from Modena, and especially Simone Gianelli, I thought was playing great back row defense in this one. Again, the 4th set as well went down to the wire. Gianelli had this one incredible reach where I swear he was touching the ball for a set at 11 feet, which is something only Simone Gianelli can do. But overall, a couple things here. We saw Martin Van Garderen in for Swan Engapet. Van Garderen, 10 for 23. So actually got a fair number of attempts. I mean, it was a long game and barely anything in the middle from Bruno. So we didn't get to see a lot of, everyone's going to get a lot of sets, especially Namir getting 57 in this one. That's like Isabel Hack, Melissa Vargas levels of sets. But I think he did his job. I like Swan a bit last week. Van Garderen, not a great server, pretty bad attacker, but
decent passer.
Decent passer.
I liked how they were going to him early. in the first set he was getting a lot of swings, and I like that because they were clearly trying to establish him a little bit more, make sure that Perugia had to respect him a little bit more. And in that case, like if you go to someone early and you go away from them, you can always go back because they've had that momentum and they have that confidence. Whereas, if you just don't go to them at all and you start from the onset by relying on, your guys, I feel like you're not going to have as much of an opportunity. But I mean, this just makes it a lot spicier because, of course, since the last time we spoke, Leal's suspension has been appealed, and it's been rescinded down to just 2 matches. So come Sunday, he's back in the game, and he's back into it. So both teams are back up at full force. Is Modena at home for this one? No, they're away. It's at Perugia, right?
Yeah, I believe the last game should be in Modena, right?
I'm
not sure. Actually, I'm not sure.
That doesn't make sense. Let's.
The last game was in Perugia, was it not?
Yeah.
Anyway, so the man of the match, the man of the thumbnail, Namir Abdelaziz. Let's go through some numbers from Mr. Namir. 41 points on the match, 35 for 57 hitting on 47% efficiency. That's really tough. It's really tough to match up with. Also, incredible serving, 22 serves in this one. A nice stat here. Opponents passing only 7% good passes on his serve. So it's basically
one.
Basically, they passed once on Namir. 7 errors, but honestly, 7 errors from Namir, 7 errors from Mr. Irvin. And honestly, Irvin serving too, 16 serves, 0% good pass percentage from Irvin serve. So,
wow. Like
we said at the beginning of the season, Modena, a potentially very strong serving team. And between those two guys, 16 and 20. So basically, quick math here, like 20 serves from Namir and Engapet that were putting them in out of system on first balls.
That's nuts.
Which is pretty good.
Which is damn good.
Yeah.
Right. And at that point, if you're doing that, then you really just have to play side out volleyball. Right.
Yeah.
You really don't have to do as much to get out of it. And I mean, when you have Namir swinging the way he did with 41 points overall.
Oh man.
Like
5 aces.
Yeah.
Probably had a couple blocks.
I mean, he's not the greatest.
One block.
He's not the greatest blocker.
He's all right. He's not bad.
He's not the greatest blocker. If there's any,
he's no Sokolov, but
he's no Sokolov. He's no Mikhailov. But if there's any, like, I feel like it's tough to be a good blocker, and he's not a good blocker.
Okay.
You know what? But this comes down to, we've been talking about it all season long, that if there's any team at all that has the ability to just turn on and to turn up and to go ham, it's this Modena team, right? When you look at the quality of players that they have, and you look at the character level, like the level of character players that they have, even when you go down to guys like Stankovic and, of course, Bruno, who, I mean, obviously we've been critical of Bruno at a few times this season, and he's clearly not, like, this isn't 2016 Bruno. This isn't peak Brazil Bruno. This is, he's starting to get a little bit up there.
Well, one of the notes I made, and I think I commented during the match, his blocking, I think it's the thing that's the most downgraded for me.
Yeah.
They were attacking him a lot in the block, and they have been all series.
Hell yeah.
And there were a couple balls, I think C balls from Matt Anderson, where Bruno, it was just a single block from Bruno, and he might as well have not even been above the net. Like, he was putting nothing up. So that's a little bit concerning. But and the other thing for Bruno, only 14 sets in the middle compared to probably like over 100 on the wings. Do you think, that's obviously a very intentional strategy. Do you think that's the right one for Modena?
I think because of all of the 4 teams left in the playoffs, Modena is the least strong down the middle.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's the reality is that, like, I think Stankovic is getting like a little long in the tooth, I was looking at it, and the other team is, they passed a perfect ball like 47% of the time on his serve.
Oh, Stankovic's serve has been almost on I don't know what happened. I thought he was used to be an all right server, but it's been,
it's
been like free ball serves.
Yeah, his serving is bad. He's getting old. He's getting to be granddaddy Stankovic. I just don't think that they have that much of an option down the middle. It just doesn't give them the best opportunity to score. And I mean, that's the reality is that when you've got Namir on the right side, you can kind of just chuck up the ball for him.
Yeah.
And let him swing away. And this same thing, like I do think that Engapeth, he thrives with like a rhythm set, and he's going to thrive with having only one blocker, but name me a more creative outside hitter who's going to be able to find ways to score when in the clutch, like this is when he starts chiseeing off of elbows. This is when he starts going high hands. This is when he starts delaying himself and going, back behind the head, because he's just finding those creative ways to get going. And this is such a streaky team, right? But when Engapeth gets rolling and when Namir gets rolling and Bruno's feeling it, like it's almost like a team that can't be stopped.
Yeah, no, and like you said, Bruno, we said before on the podcast, Bruno, one of the best right side setters in the world. So that's been helpful going back to Namir, and really like they find him in the pocket for those C ball attacks, which he's been hitting a lot of back row attacks as well. Yeah, I'm very excited. This is a series. I can't believe like Modena, they've kept it alive here, and with Leal coming back, like they've probably favorites to win this series.
And also, I looked it up. They're at home for Game 4,
and
right?
we know the Palapanini.
The Palapanini is going to be sold out. I mean,
rocking.
Even Ronnie who was watching. We were watching the Lube match yesterday, and he was commenting about how, there wasn't that many people in Lube's crowd. And like it wasn't it wasn't a sellout compared to like Modena.
Yeah.
Right. And I actually noticed the same thing in the Navarra versus Monza game yesterday on the women's side that was being played in Navarra, that wasn't a sold out crowd. Although that one looked like it may have been due to more to COVID stuff, just by how people were like evenly spaced out. But maybe that's not the case. I don't know about other countries' rules like that. But yeah, that like it's gonna be a tough home game for Modena. They're going to have that eighth person on the court with them.
Yeah, and what do you think about Perugia? Because we just talked a lot about Modena, but we haven't really talked anything about Perugia. I thought Wilfredo Leon, had a bit of a bounce back game. Still not the elite Leon, but hitting 16 for 32, over 40% efficiency, so not terrible from him. No aces in this one though, so. That's uncharacteristic from Mr. Wilfredo. Only 16 serves overall. Usually he's leading serving attempts. Great game from Kamil Rajclicki. 18 for 30, 46% efficiency. And again, Matt Anderson, like you can almost predict, if he had a good game last time, he's going to have a bad game this time. He's really up and down. What do you think Perugia can do differently? Maybe this is a good time to fit in that Soleil news as well.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. But I mean, looking at Leon's serving stats right now, they passed 30% of the balls of his serves were perfect passes. Like that's almost unheard of
for Leon.
For Leon, right? And I mean, obviously the points that he puts on the board is huge for them. And then obviously putting the team, like even when he's not scoring aces, if he's getting those balls over and putting pressure on, he's putting them in bad situations. Obviously, like that's really what led to as many blocks as we saw from Perugia in the last match. And whenever we see them having success, because they're serving tough and forcing teams into those like 3-man block situations. But yeah, just not seeing that. And also I think one more thing too is that if Leon's not serving well, and like this, like they're confidently passing him at 30%. And I mean, most of the guys here, the only guy that served well, ironically, is Mr. Matt Anderson.
Okay, yeah,
he was their best server on the day, with only 11% of, basically 12% of his passes being a perfect pass.
Yeah.
But that to me just tells me that, like, especially in the second half, that Modena wasn't scared, in serve receive, and I think that's the worst place to be in with that type of roster.
Well, okay, so Leon 37 serving errors in his last 6 games.
Shit.
So I think there was maybe Gerber was just like, hey, like we can't have another 8-9 air game from you. Like, take a little bit off. And I don't know if that's ever something you want to coach Leon to do. This is purely hypothetical, but that could have been the case. I think he should, I'd rather him have 9 airs, but also, have that like 5 or 6% opponent passing percentage than 6 errors and 30, right?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He still had 6 errors in this one. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like he still had a lot of errors in this one, even when he obviously took some stuff off. Yeah. So it's yeah, it's not the it's not the greatest not the greatest look for him.
Yeah, and actually Leon this series lower attacking efficiency overall than both Anderson and Camille.
Oh wow.
For the series against Modena, yeah. He's at 32% versus 34 and 40. So I think it was fair that they went to Rajclicki the most. And should they go to Camille again?
Yeah, absolutely. He has been their most consistent player all season long.
So,
and he's so overlooked.
Doesn't it sound a little crazy that we're saying Camille Rajclicki should get the most sets? We weren't even sure if he was going to start at the beginning of the season.
but like let's be honest, it's like the same thing in the NFL when you've got these like superstar wide receivers who don't get any balls because they're consistently double teamed. Everyone expects the ball to go to Leon. Everyone expects him to get the ball. Everyone expects him, And let's be honest, of the names on that team, Rajclicki is definitely at the in the bottom. Like Matt Anderson, Soleil, Leon, obviously. Then you're gonna go for Rajclicki. I believe he's one of the most overlooked players that we have in our sport.
Wow. Okay.
And he gets so much of this. Oh well, he's always played with good setters. Like he plays with DeCecco and he plays with Gianelli and he plays with other good guys. But he consistently puts up good points. He's a guy that doesn't need to be your superstar, but he can put up a 20-piece any day for you. And he's going to do so efficiently. So, yeah, absolutely. You've always been able to rely on Camille Rajclicki on the right side. And this game, down 2-1, your season's on the line. Like, ultimately, your legacy is on the line. Obviously, I think Leon's going to want to step up. But, go into it expecting to have to lean on Camille Rajclicki a lot.
Got to watch some old Rajclicki Ravenna footage.
But wasn't he because I remember how I found out about him was when we did that OG Super League of Volley fantasy teams. Remember when we did the fantasy league and you kind of just picked him up on a whim and he started.
It's never on a whim, Everett.
Okay, yeah, okay.
I had him scouted from the Mosaic days.
Fair enough, but that's what I'm saying, right? It's like he's always been that steady, dependable scorer, and he's always going to be putting up numbers for you. So, yeah, it's weird, but at the same time, that's what he does. And this is why I think he's one of the most overlooked players we have in our sport. Also because he comes from Luxembourg, so he's never going to be relevant on the international stage.
Fair enough. Sebastian Soleil was announced recently. Italian or confirmed Italian citizenship for next year. I don't think this necessarily means that he's going to play for the Italian national team. I don't think it's that kind of thing.
I don't think he can, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just that he's not going to count for the foreigner limit in Italy.
Yeah.
However, that's still a big deal. That means if he stays on Perugia, that means Perugia, of all teams, is going to have another Italian on the court in Sebastian Soleil, which is crazy.
Nuts.
And I mean, Argentinians, Italians, that's actually pretty fair. Very, very similar culturally. It's like Australia, Canada. They should just count the same for foreigner limits.
You're not wrong.
But that pairs really well with the news that they're picking up Flavio. So Flavio, the Brazilian middle, Soleil, middle pairing for Perugia. First of all, would have them again, even better somehow than this year, where we're saying the most stacked roster that's been put together in volleyball. And now they're adding Flavio, shoring up by far their biggest weakness, which is the second Italian middle.
Yes.
Ever, what are your thoughts on this?
Well,
it's hypothetical at this point, but we'll see.
I don't think it's hypothetical at all. I think this is already happening.
Well, the hypothetical perfect roster that Gianelli stays.
Well, I mean, hey, let's be.
Stays,
but and you've also
Leon, everyone.
There's also the one aspect that you didn't mention either, too, is the fact that Anderson is going to be leaving this team, and they have the potential of picking Camille Semeniuk up.
Right.
Right. Leon with the two Camilles, that sounds pretty nasty with Flavio, Gianelli, and Soleil. Yikes. That's scary. But I mean, my initial thoughts on this, first of all, I think about Team Canada because of how much Soleil and Argentina have slapped us over the years. So, yeah, it's nice that he's going to be gone. But then again, they still have Augustin Lozère, too, who's not too bad as well. So they still have options. Yeah, for Perugia, I mean, it's absolutely massive. I wonder if this is going to come along with a bonus or an increase in salary and being like, hey, like you became an Italian for us, so
Yeah,
like we're gonna bump up some stuff for you. But yeah, huge move.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll have lots of time to talk about all these transfers. After the playoffs and once more of this is confirmed. For now, let's move on to Lube versus Trento. Not as the individual game wasn't exciting, obviously, as Modena Perugia. It's pretty boring, just because it was like we saw the Lube team that I and many others thought we were going to see this entire series. Like I predicted Lube to come out and handle this series pretty competently. Came out, lost the first two matches, 6 sets straight, and come back and win this 3-0. And like you said, Lucarelli, 12 for 13 in this one.
12 for 13,
which is pretty.
His efficiency was a 923. He was a 923 efficiency with a 9.2 through the exact same kill percentage. Like that is absolutely unreal. First one off the bat, it was clear to me that Lucarelli had a sense of urgency. Not just Lucarelli. Lube had a sense of urgency to their game that we haven't seen in a long time, right? And I had forgotten about this version of Lube. I had forgotten they could be this team. And it seemed for once someone other than Robert Landy Simone was motivated and was there ready to play. And I think, like really we've seen him be the driving factor, and Checo just looks unmotivated and uninspired, and Lucarelli and Yant.
That's just his face, though.
That's true. You're not wrong. Lucarelli and Yant have just been like flat overall. And this time, like, we saw them hustling around the court. We saw them making plays. We saw them playing defense. It was a much different Lube team that we saw out there. And I mean, Lucarelli was non-existent in the last game. He was terrible. Like, what did he have? 2 kills? And this one, he goes 12 for 13. That's absolutely unreal. And on the flip side, Yant didn't have a terrible game. He went 10 for 21. Zaitsev went 14 for 26. Very, very interesting to me that I still wonder if Lucarelli is not 100% healthy, because he's that efficient. He's 12 for 13, and you're giving him half of the attempts that you're giving to Zaitsev. You're giving him like 8 less attempts than Yant. He wasn't like we were watching his highlights earlier on Volleymetrics, and he was scoring on a lot of 3-man blocks, but he still didn't get that much of a volume, and he was able to do a lot with it.
See, I don't think his attempts were that different than they were in the first 2 matches. I think it was, a lot of like bailout kind of situations, out of system situations. Again, like you said, going up against triples. I think he was just finding better ways to score in this one. He was hitting around the block where maybe he had caught an outside hand of the third blocker before, or he's firing one to the back corner where he might have missed that by a few inches before. I think a lot of this was just getting a bit luckier. Obviously, like, takes skill to be able to do those shots, and I think they just came in with a game plan coming into it. They had an idea of what the set distribution would be like. Obviously, going a lot to the middle, going to Yant, going to Zaitsev as much as they could in system, and I think they just didn't want to mess with it, right? And also, Yant was playing a lot better in the first couple sets than he was. A lot of those misses came near the end, which he did switch to Lucarelli a bit more towards that third set. So, I think it's fair. I think DeCheco had overall a very nice game. You could see they were setting it really far out on the pins, and I think this was to kind of counter like that Trentino block, which is getting so many triples up. The footwork and those Serbian middle blockers were causing so many issues for them. But when you put it, way out on the pin, maybe it takes away a bit of the line, takes away a couple shots, but you also get a lot more doubles and sometimes even single blocks. So I think that was a really smart move from Lube and DeCheco to change up the strategy a little bit there.
Yeah, it seemed like they didn't go to the pipe as much, right? Like we saw Yant come out of the pipe a few times,
yeah.
But that was it really. But you're right, they were really spreading that offense. It was fast and it was to the outside, and they're really just shooting it out there. playing with Simone on the little, like, we saw him hit a lot of extreme angles in this one because he was coming around for that 31 a lot, or they were running him kind of behind to Checo. So they clearly made an adjustment on their offense, and it worked out for them. Now my question is, because as much as we saw Lube flip the switch and they've turned on, like, it's the question, can they sustain this? Are we going to be able to see this Lube? But also on the other side of the net for Trentino, it wasn't working for them today. And I mean, we were talking about a little bit earlier is that Micheletto has not been great this series. And my question to you is, do you think he's getting tired? Because he's still a young guy, and who has played more than Micheletto over the past year and a half, almost 2 years, right? When you can consider the fact that he's done this entire season, he didn't get injured. I think he got COVID, so that was the only part. Before that, he had the U21 World Championships. Before that, he had Eurovolley. Before that, he had the Olympics. Before that, he had the VNL. He went on a deep run last year all the way to the Champions League, so he was playing that entire time. Like, no one has played as much as this young, 21, 22-year-old. So
yeah, 21, I think still.
21, right? So, like, do you think he's starting to get tired, and do you think we're starting to see that fatigue with Trentino, because they were flat as a pancake in their match this week?
Yeah, and don't forget, it's not just Micheletto. I mean, other than the U21 championship, you have the same schedule for Daniele Lavia and Riccardo Sbertoli as well. I mean, I think it's fatigue. That is an unreal schedule. We've run over that before on the podcast. That's just an insane amount of volleyball to be playing. I mean, he's essentially been playing straight volleyball since the beginning of the 2020 club season when it resumed, right? So, like, that's a long time. I think he can play better. Obviously, you saw even this one, Lavia getting more attacking attempts, but I think what you kind of saw in this game is that Kaziski didn't have the greatest game and Micheletto didn't have the greatest game. And that doesn't really happen before. Usually it's 2 out of those 3 wing guys for Trentino that are okay. Rarely all 3 of them play well at the same time, but usually it's 2. And all 3 of them in this match, I mean, not the worst games, but when Lube is firing on all cylinders, like we just said, then they need a bit more, right? I think Lube, I think this is an important win for them confidence-wise.
100%.
I think now they really, okay, we're a better team than Trentino. Let's take it to them. Let's force this to 5 sets. I think we are going to go 5 here. I think we're going to both series go 5, and I'm here for it. Like, I'm very excited. Unfortunately, both games at the same time on Sunday, which kind of sucks.
And I work at the same time, so I'm really not stoked about that. Maybe I'll definitely take my break and be able to watch on the phone. Last Sunday it was so dead that I was propped my phone up on the bar and was watching.
Man, put it on the bar TVs.
I actually asked if it would be possible, but the TVs just run off a satellite feed, and I don't think we can get Volleyball World TV. Yeah. I was like, hey, if we could make this, a bar that plays volleyball, I
would be there. I would bring people there every like.
It would be
very often.
It's down the street from your house too, so
exactly.
it would be beneficial. But yeah, so honestly, I don't think Perugia and Modena is going 5. Okay. I think that if Modena is to win this series, and I think that they might, they're getting it done at home.
Yeah. Okay.
And if they're not. So if they don't win on Sunday, then Perugia is going to win.
Good analysis.
That's my thoughts.
So you can guys watch both these games on volleyballworld.tv. Everett, which game are you watching? If you had to choose. I know you can't. Maybe. If you had to choose one of these.
Oh, fuck.
I'm going Modena versus Perugia. That series has been too good. Every game's been set points and match points and comebacks.
But I mean, the reality is that you don't necessarily have to. You can dual screen it. On Volleyball World TV.
Not 2 devices though, unfortunately.
You know what I managed to do is that I can dual screen because my TV is attached to Apple TV, so I dual screen. So I stream, and you can have it as long as it's on the same computer. You can have it on 2 tabs. So that's what I was doing.
That's really smart.
For yesterday for the men and women.
Yeah.
It's so yeah, if you have another screen that you can like screencast to it and just use it as a secondary screen, that's what you can do. But yeah, no, I think Perugia and Modena, there's just way more on the line. Like, the atmosphere is going to be absolutely bananas. At some point, Trevica is going to get subbed in, and he's just going to get booed, and it's going to be awesome. That Leal is going to be out for fire. That Leon knows his legacy is on the line here, and he's going to be ready to go. So everything is shaping up for that match to be a banger. But at the same time, like, you can't not watch that Lube Trentino match.
Yeah, I think the dual screen is the way to go. Very excited for that. However, even before then, on Saturday, we have our first matches of the Plus Liga semifinals. Zaksa, Kajushin, Kozhle going up against Zavierce, Kovacevic, and Conte. And then after that, Ystrepchi Vegil versus Skra Belchatov. So I don't know, even though we got some great matches, especially that Skra series in the quarters, like, this is what I'm looking forward to. This is 4 very, very good teams here.
Yeah. It's not quite Italian, that league. Like, to me, there's no, maybe Zavierce has the ability to, or sorry, maybe I really don't see Skra taking down JW, and I definitely don't see Zavierce challenging Zaksa either.
You don't see Skra taking down JW? No chance, eh?
I'm not saying no chance, but I do think that JW is a better team overall. I mean, let's be honest. It's a JW versus Skra matchup. Like, if there's like, this is the rivalry. Like, this is like 2 of the most storied teams in all of, Polish volleyball and all of European volleyball. They've been there and done it so many times. Of course, none of them been able to do it the level that Zaksa has done it by winning the Champions League, but still, like, they've been around for a while. So that this is going to be a heated one, but like,
I just love that Bieniek matchup against the Ystrepchi middles. And
but Glider's back now.
Glider's back.
That's like, and if anyone can fight against Bieniek, because like Bieniek, like, he plays at such a high level. He
literally high.
Yeah, like, literally high.
I was doing some scouting on him, and the amount of times in that last match he just went over top of the blockers to position 6 on a quick was like hilarious.
Yeah, he can go straight up OT on anyone, right? And obviously that's part of why we love him. But if anyone can go toe to toe with Bieniek in that way, I'm giving it to Glider. Because he's physical, but he's just a mental case when it comes to blocking.
Right.
Like, he's scary.
4 kill blocks against Gdansk in the last one.
Yeah.
For Glider. Yeah.
Not to mention he's played for Skra in the past, so he like he has that little bit more of a like, yeah, let's go. So yeah, I'm.
So what's your prediction then? Skra. So you're taking Ystrepchi in 2?
Yeah.
It's 2 out of 3, right?
Yeah.
I think, I'm gonna take Ystrepchi as well, but in 3. I think Skra gets one of their good home team. We've seen like a couple games where Abadapor is starting to play a bit better here. Tanasiewicz had some good moments in set 5 in the last match that qualified. Oh, by the way, that Skra match versus Olsztyn, like, was that not like one of the best matches of the Plus Liga this year?
Yeah, that one was was phenomenal.
We already talked about it on the 9x9, so we don't have to talk about it here too much. But just Olsztyn being up 10-7 or whatever it was. Oh man,
it was a back and forth one even in the early sets. And I mean that Olsztyn team, I think, has to be given a lot of credit with Butrin and with DeFalco.
It was a fun team.
Like, it's a fun team that you kind of want to root for. Like, maybe not A-level players, but like some A-, B+ type of guys who work well together, and they're just fun to watch. And they were a good time to watch. Honestly, I would have rather see them in the semifinals than JW. Or sorry, than Skra. I would have loved to see a JW Olsztyn.
Yeah, that would have been fun too.
Matchup. I think that would have been great. I also wanted to see Resovia in there, but they choked hard against Zavierce, and
well, that brings us to the next point: Zavierce versus Zaksa. Zavierce like punked Resovia, and Resovia, I think, is for everything that's happened to them, is still a pretty good team.
100%.
So do you think Zavierci is this, Zaksa in the super finals, having a really good season? I think what was it, 2 or 3 losses in the regular season. Is this a foregone conclusion, or is there actually legitimate volleyball to be played here?
Can it be both?
Sure, yeah.
Because that's what I think. It's like, is it going to be a snooze fest? No. Is Zavierci with a team like with guys like Kovacevic and Gunakante, are they going to be able to play up against Zaksa? Absolutely. But does Zavierci have the organization and the quality top to bottom that Zaksa does to fight in and out over the course of a match? I don't think so. Right? Like, I think that they're going to make it interesting for a set or two, and then maybe win a set, and then Zaksa will run away with it by the end, just by overwhelming them.
And the blocking, too. I mean,
exactly.
Zavierci, I think their offense is great. I mean, it's a funny offense. It's just, let's throw it out to the outside. But, okay, we have 2. Kronarski has his moments, but not usually. But 2 of the best, most creative outside hitters in volleyball right now, Kovacevic and Conte. Rarely use the middle, but then on the other side, they're blocking. Just, I don't know, that just isn't there for me. And we've seen Zaksa pick apart really good blocking teams this season. And, I think Semeniuk and Kaczmarek and Slifka are looking at Zavierci and be like, there's no chance. There's no chance these guys can put like hands up on us and slow us down. Like, I think it's going to be a slugfest. I think there's going to be, some very like plus 50% efficiency games, but Zaksa, we'll get to this later, but I think they are going to win this 2-0 pretty confidently.
Zaksa's just the most, arguably to me, Zaksa's the most complete team in volleyball right now in terms of all sides of the ball.
Which is unreal when you talk about a team that's lost Benjamin Taniuti, Pavel Zatorsky, and Kohanovsky.
Yeah, Kohanovsky. And I mean, all of those guys, they just plays with more steadiness. Like Janusz is a very steady setter. Like, he's not, sure, we've maybe criticized him for not running a varied offense like Taniuti did it, or, when they've lost to Lube and stuff in the Champions League, about how, they weren't that creative, but that's kind of what you get, but that there's still going to be the quality there. Huber stepping in for Kokanovsky as well. Like, if you want to talk about someone who plays up high, like Huber's a guy that can play at Bieniek's level and does, right? Like, him and Bieniek are two of the guys, especially now that Nowakowski isn't going to be in the Polish folds for the national team. Like, those are the 2 guys who are expected to play at that high level, like up there.
And also, how about this? Huber, their leading scorer in the series against Katowice.
So, like,
and guess who has like arguably the worst middle blockers left in the playoffs?
Zavierci. So yeah, you just know that this is exactly why I think that it's going to be good volleyball to watch. Just because, like, they've got good players, and that Conte and Kovacevic are going to be able to prolong some rallies and make some good plays, and they're going to fight back for sure. But ultimately, like, Zaksa's defense, Zaksa's serving, Zaksa's serve receive, like, every single part of it, like, Kovacevic and Conte alone aren't going to be able to stress Zaksa for them to be able to throw the game.
Yeah, and also Zavierci also not the strongest serving team, but the thing, when you're playing Zaksa, like, you got to serve them tough.
You got to serve them tough, and you got to serve them tactically.
Exactly, yeah.
So
that's, yeah. So, okay, but I'm very excited for Bundesliga to start. Polstat Box Sport, go. Polstat Box, just Google Polstat Box, I think. Mm-hmm. And then you can sign up. No VPN required, so it's not as hard to watch as people say.
Yeah,
this one. I don't get it. A lot of people get stressed out by that one. But.
Rob keeps on getting stressed out about watching Bundesliga. I'm like, dude, it's not that hard.
Yeah, are not as easy as Volleyball World TV, and hopefully they pick it up for next year. But all right,
yeah.
Do you want to talk about Germany for a second here?
Absolutely, I want to talk about Germany
because oh my goodness,
I need some redemption here, because last week we talked about most disappointing teams. And I said Friedrichshafen, and then just a few hours later, maybe as we were doing the podcast, they beat Berlin, and then a little bit after that, a few days later on a Wednesday, they beat Berlin again, and now take a 2-0 lead before, they have to go back, and the next game is in Berlin. But still, like, they're knocking on the door of a championship, and it's almost a carbon copy of the opposite of what happened last year, about how Friedrichshafen dominated the regular season, and Berlin didn't seem like they're going to be able to touch them. And then it came to the Bundesliga finals, and Berlin took it home. This time it's the complete opposite. Whereas Friedrichshafen has been struggling all season, had a terrible Champions League. We're losing games early on, like weren't even in the top 5 teams. And now here they are with a 2-0 lead. And I mean, to me, full credit goes to Marc Lebedeau for what he's been able to do with this roster, because it's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's arguably the greatest, like top 5 coach in volleyball easily, perhaps even higher. But yeah, I mean, again, like, he just has a way to get so much out of these, like, players that, honestly, like, I don't really know who their outside hitters were before this year.
Nope.
Like Luciano Vincentin, like, was he even really a part of Argentina's, like, youth roster? Like, it's absolutely incredible what he's been able to do. And I mean, definitely not bad players. I mean, Dan Vincic, Blair Band, Lucas Van Berkel, like, all these guys are kind of like on, like, the most underrated players list. Like, it's not terrible players, but competing with a Berlin roster that's, been pumping teams all season with Ben Patch and Sergey Grankin and all these guys. Like, Jeffrey Jendrick obviously hurts not to have him in the middle. But
Marcus or Anton Brem as well, who they lost because before it was like the 3 middles that they had were Jendrick, Brem, and Mote, which is 3 like international level middles.
Yeah, for sure.
And then now they've got George Klein, who's a Berlin police officer during the day, and then plays for Berlin at night.
George Klein, who hit 11 for 11 in the last one, so I don't think he's the issue.
Well, I mean, hey, he turned on. Did he hit 11-11? God damn it. Yeah. Okay.
But for me, the issue that I see I was kind of critical of Berlin at the beginning of the season. I feel like it's kind of coming to a fruition a little bit here. For a team that, like Berlin, with those great middles, with Sergey Grankin, with Ben Patch on the opposite, why are your outside hitters Samuel Tuia, who's like solid, but probably 4 years past his prime, and I don't think would start on like any team in Italy, even like the lower level ones, and Timothy Carley, who's been fine at times, but again, it's not like he's barely spent time with the French national team. He actually looks like he might not be in the pipeline anymore for the French national team based on Eurovolley last year. Has not played like in any really big clubs. Why are the level of your outside hitters so much lower than every other position? Don't tell me they can't afford like some mid tier, like I don't know who even like maybe not a Steven Marr, but
a Karlitzek.
Like a Karlitzek, exactly. Yeah, like that kind of level, like
someone like it would make sense too. The German guy, Karlitzek had an average,
or
year
like a Thibaut Rosard, even maybe they could probably get like some.
I mean, I think Thibaut Rosard, especially after the year that he had last year with,
his pricey.
Yeah, his price is still a little bit higher. Had a decent season this year at Piacenza, but no, I 100% agree.
Samuel Tuia at this point,
yeah, Sam Tuia, Ruben Schott.
Oh yeah, and you know how I don't need to tell you guys how I feel about Ruben Schott.
And then Cody Kessel as well. I think Cody Kessel is a great story, but he's just average.
Yeah, he's again, none of these guys, like Timothy Carley is pretty good too, and again Santiago Dani, like top 5 libero in the world. Like
they just have guys at like random, like decent guys at like random spots.
But it just shows the importance of having good outside hitters, even though the rest of their team is stacked. Like,
but to me, like when you just look at this on paper, when you look at how spread out Friedrichshafen's offense is, 28 attempts go to D'Olivera on the right side, 28 attempts go to Simon Hirsch, 22 attempts to Luciano, 10 attempts apiece for your middles in Ballmer and Lucas Van Berkel. And to me, like with the blocking numbers that Friedrichshafen's putting up, 16 blocks overall, 6 for Marcus Ballmer, only 1 for Lucas Van Berkel in this
and
one.
Like we said on the last episode, 16 blocks for Friedrichshafen. And what's the most coachable skill?
Blocking.
100%. So another feather in Mr. Marc Lebedeau's cap there.
And like I think the biggest about all of this is 7 blocks overall on Ben Patch. Like you are shutting down their biggest weapon. And I mean, and we know it's Ben Patch, and
That's how he's always attacked, though.
yeah, I know, but like
He's always aiming for an inch above the net every time.
yeah, which is crazy because he touches so high.
I know.
But yeah, like it's definitely interesting how Berlin has just shut down, and they haven't, like they didn't have a response to the game one success by Friedrichshafen,
Yeah.
and they just jumped right back into it. And I don't know, like maybe Berlin can win at home here, but we'll see.
There's like they did hit more efficiently than Friedrichshafen in this one.
They did.
But yeah, the Friedrichshafen defense, set distribution, blocking, all the little things. When's the next match? Do you know off the top?
I think it's Saturday. Let me
On Spawn Tent as well.
Yeah, Spawn Tent. And once again, like it's just Saturday at 12:30 Eastern time.
Man, what a weekend for volleyball.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm excited.
12:30 Eastern time on Saturday. That's going to be on Spawn Tent on Twitch. SPONTENT. Honestly, the best place to watch volleyball. Like it's better than the Volleyball World streams.
Yeah,
it's
just really doing a good job there.
They use high quality cameras. I want to learn German just so I can understand their streams.
Not an easy language.
No.
So
Exactly. So make sure to check that one out. Should be a good one.
Yeah. All right. Shall we get to our fun topic here, Everett? Our top European clubs this season. Which,
yes,
I mean, we have the Champions League to compare clubs, but it doesn't give you a perfect picture because not every team plays against each other. Not every team matches up. Not every team makes the Champions League, even though they might be one of the top teams. So let's give it a shot here. Do you want to start 10-1 or 1-10? Let's go 1-10. Let's start with the top.
Yeah, we'll start with the top. Who do you have as the top?
I have the reigning Champions League champions and number one team in the Plusliga, Zaksa Koszale. I mean, they're in the super finals again with a different roster, firing on all cylinders, like statistically absolutely crushing the Plusliga again. I think they've crushed the Plusliga for like 5 years straight. I think the super finals victory last year, even though they didn't win the Plusliga, I think it validated them as, and Polish volleyball, I guess, as a whole, as absolutely elite level at the top, comparable with Russia and Italy. And just when I watch Zaksa games, I'm like, looks incredible. This is like, even without Taniuti, it's not as buttery smooth as it was with Taniuti. And no, it's not as like magical, but it's still just ruthless, efficient. Everyone's on the same page. Watching those three outside hitters has been awesome this year. Eric Shoji has brought a different dynamic to the back row defense. He's less kind of cold and reserved as Zatorsky, and I think I'm picking them probably to win Champions League again. So number one team in Europe, in my opinion.
I can't disagree with you, but I'm going to.
Okay, good.
Because while I agree with all of that. I do think that on the international level, aka the Champions League level, you can definitely give them a bit of a question mark, if you will, just because of the opponents that they've played en route so far. They haven't really been challenged, let's say, in the early goings of the Champions League.
Well, they won Champions League last year. They beat Zenit Kazan and Lube Civitanova.
Yeah, but we're talking about this year.
It's mostly the same team.
Mostly the same team, but it's not. So while they have been that dominant, I'm going to have them at my number 2 spot, and I'm going to slide in their opponents in the Champions League final, Trentino, as the number 1 club this season.
Yeah, you love Trentino. Wow, I do not have them that high.
Because of how, like, the success that they've had against the other teams recently. Like, I'm viewing this almost like a power ranking. But you just came off beating Perugia in the Champions League semis. Sure, you just dropped that one to Lube, but you are leading 2-1 against Lube, right? Like, who else can you beat?
Zaksa, which they haven't done yet.
That's the only thing that they have ahead of them. But and then when you look at this as a team that we weren't expecting to be this good, we weren't even expecting them to be a top 4 team in the Superliga, and now they have the potential. Like, there's only 2 teams left who have the potential to have like that perfect season. Not that, like, they have the potential to be like the number 1, both in league and and in Europe, and that's just Trentino and Zaksa right now. And Trentino, we didn't see it coming, and they arguably had the much harder path to get here. So that's why I'm ranking them higher.
No, fair enough. I like it. I guess maybe now hearing you say that, maybe I underrated them too much. But I don't know. I also see a very real chance of them getting punked in like the Superliga and Champions League finals and be like, oh, like maybe they ran out of steam. Maybe they just had too many games this season, like yesterday, where I'm like, oh, this team can get like, completely fall apart.
But I mean, so has Zaksa on the other side. Like, who's that? Like, Zaksa's lost bad matches this year.
Have they lost with playing their starters? Really?
Yeah,
though?
they have. They have.
Okay. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, luckily we'll be able to see who's right.
Oh, Zaksa isn't on Volleymetrics
in the Champions League finals. No, I think they are.
Oh.
All right, I'll go my number 2 team now. Perugia. So I'm still not going Trentino. See, and I maybe I did this a little differently because I'm still looking at like if these teams were to play right now, like who would I pick? And for me, I mean, Trentino did beat Perugia.
They just beat them
by like the narrowest
still beat them
sliver of margins. And Perugia's beat Trentino many times in the regular season. Like they barely lost.
Regular season doesn't mean dick. It means nothing at all. Trentino beat them when it mattered.
Fair enough.
When it mattered the most.
Fair enough, but I just see, Gianelli on this team, Leon on this team, Soleil, Plotnitsky, Matt Anderson, Kalachi. I just see the names on this roster. I'm like, I'm still taking this team. To be super competitive. And I still think, if we were to run it back, Perugia does a little better than they ended up doing in the Champions League.
I don't know. It doesn't feel like they had anything robbed to them. It feels like robbed from them. It feels like they lost.
Fair
to
enough.
Me.
Who's your number 2?
I already said it's Zaksa.
Oh, not Zaksa. Okay, easy.
I go Trentino 1, Zaksa 2.
Yeah, fair enough. Number 3, I had, maybe surprising you, Zenit Kazan. Which is, it was tough doing the Russian teams this season because, they got kicked out of, Zenit Kazan wasn't even in Champions League.
Yeah.
Not through any fault too much of the players on the roster this year. But they dominated the Russian league this year. And again, I haven't been watching a ton since all this stuff has been going down. But I think Micah Christensen and Bartosz Bednarz was a great addition for them. They were doing really well in the Russian league. Mikhailov was having a bit of bounce back season, and I really wish we got to see more of this team because Micah Christian and Bednarz being reunited on Zenit Kazan, one of the world's volleyball's most legendary franchises, would have been really fun to see in Champions League. We wouldn't have seen it anyway, but it would have been fun to see a Zenit Kazan versus Modena CV Cup.
That would have been awesome.
That wasn't even in the cards without Zenit Kazan being
Russian
banned. So, yeah, this is a tough one, but that team was really fun team. I only got to see them play it like a few times, so maybe I'll go back and watch a couple more matches because they were a fun team this year.
Yeah, I think when you take into account like Mikhailov and Volkov and Volvic and just that whole roster, and it seems too like I've seen videos of Micah from this year, and it just seems like they're like a fun team to be around. Exactly. When we were planning for this show, we had been talking about kind of topics and stuff like that we were going to be talking about, and I said top 10 European teams. Or European clubs. I had meant like all time.
We should do that on a future one.
We should do that on the future
keep it
one.
in the bank.
And he thought we went this year. So just for reference, my number 1 all time is Zenit Kazan.
Oh yeah.
My number 1 of like top European
Gotta
clubs
be.
is Zenit Kazan.
Gotta be.
With everything that they did. But yeah, actually I have Kazan at 3 as well. And I think that they're the one team that has the potential of breaking into number one, but we'll never know. We'll never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, do you have the other three as well?
I have them 3 as
Yeah.
well. And then for the record, I have Perugia at 4.
And I have Trentino at 4.
Okay.
So we have the same top 4.
We have the same top 4. It's a little jumbled up there, but it's
Yeah.
some questionable decisions on your end, but I'll forgive you.
I'm glad we have the same top 4 though. Number 5, I had Modena. Because, we've seen they're up on Perugia right now in their series. Of course, they had that CV Cup against Tours, which is embarrassing. And they didn't do the best during the regular season. But I think once you, recently, if we're talking about power rankings, since February onwards, Modena, especially when Leal plays, has been an elite team. And they have been one of the best in Europe. And, it sucks that the timing didn't work out for CV competition and everything. But we're seeing this. I mean, when Engapet and Namir and Leal are all firing, and Bruno hasn't been firing really this season, but even if he potentially is playing, that is the 3 best wings almost at any team I've ever seen in my life. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, arguably 2 top 5 outside hitters and easily the best opposite in the world right now. They're fun, and the firepower is great, and the defense is great.
Once again, I can't disagree with you, except on one point, I think that CEV Cup.
I swept the worst upset, potentially in CV Cup history under the rug.
Yeah, absolutely.
Casually.
Yeah, you were just oh, that doesn't matter. Modena losing to Tools, that doesn't matter.
Hey, Kevin Tilly, man, don't underrate it.
I'm not underrating it. It's just, yeah, I don't know.
All right, who did you have?
I had Lube in at number 5. Close between them and Modena. However, I think that the fact that they were in Champions League, and yes, they did choke, arguably at the same stage, both in the quarterfinals, but still, they lost in the Champions League, and Modena lost in the CEV Cup. And that's what it comes down to for me.
Okay, fair enough. But how about this number 6, Jastrzębski Węgiel, who beat Lube in the Champions League quarterfinal? So why isn't just because I had Jastrzębski Lube as my next 2 teams? I'm talent,
actually,
have pretty similar seasons, but Jastrzębski did beat them 3-0, 3-2. So
you know what? Scratch that. I'm gonna throw in JW at 5. I'm gonna move my list around here.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw in JW at 5, Lube at 6, Modena at 7.
All right, fair enough. So Jastrzębski, I mean, they've been pretty, this is 2 seasons in a row where they feel pretty comfortably in the top kind of 10 here. What's the next step for Jastrzębski though? How do they break through that barrier in Champions League?
I think that they are, once again, when we're talking about one of the most storied franchises in club volleyball, JW is up there among them. When we're talking about one of, the franchises that has been relevant for a long time, JW is one of them, both on the Polish stage and the European stage. To me, it just seems like they lack a little bit of identity. That difference between them and the reality is that I don't think a Polish club is ever going to be able to play athlete for athlete like they do with Italian clubs do, just because of the foreigner limit, how low it is in Poland. Right, you're never going to be able to have the amount of superstars on one team, but not multiple teams. You've just got Zaksa. And then the level of Polish superstar from Zaksa to JW is pretty significant in my opinion.
Yeah.
With Slivka and Szemeniuk and Kaczmarek, that's the top of the top. That could arguably that's your 3 starting outsides moving forward. Yeah,
but Jastrzębski with two starters from the Olympic winning team, Antoniadi and Cleveno.
Not a starter. Tony Udi wasn't a starter. Tony Udi was on the bench. That's why Brazil got the number one team player in the world. Once again, trying to sweep details under the rug here, Dan.
He started.
But it just seems to me that like Zaksa has a definitive style of play, and they have a definitive, identity. Whereas I don't know if JW has as much. I think they kind of go with a more traditional Europeans model where they just try to sign big names instead of trying to find someone who's going to work for their system. So maybe that's the answer. But like the truth of the matter is, I mean, that would be a question that we'd have to ask Adnus, because neither of us really know the politics or like the inner goings of the Plusliga.
Right. Yeah. Not to the detail that an expert like him would know. All right. So we have those three. So we just got 8, 9, 10 now. Here, why don't you give me your 8th team? Switch it around a bit.
I'm gonna go.
Gets a little tougher here, doesn't it?
Yes. I'm going with Milano.
Oh,
Milano.
Okay. Why Milano?
Just because, sure, they weren't any European competitions this year, but every other team in the Superlega, there was a point when every team below Milano had the potential of finishing outside the playoffs. Every team below Milano was still fighting for their spot. And I mean, Milano was a team for me that I did not rate very highly at the beginning of the year and have crept up my list throughout. And even though like they had a pretty entertaining game, were they playing Trentino? No. Lube.
Lube, I believe. Yeah.
They played Lube. So they had a pretty entertaining series with Lube. It was fun to watch, and I just think that they had an overall good season this year.
All right, so I'm Milano. I have a different Italian team on my list ahead of, but not quite yet. Next, I have Dynamo Moscow.
Another tough one.
Another Russian team. I mean, they still have that core of that team that like absolutely killed it. They second in the Russian Cup, first in the Russian Super Cup. I think they could have did some serious damage in Champions League this year.
I kind of forgot about them, to be honest.
Yeah,
but I'm standing by my pick, just cause.
Fair enough. I mean, just the whole roster. Just once again, Svetlana Sokolov, Likoshestov, Laurie Kermanen, like the whole gang. Another strong. Pavel Pankov, of course. I got to give some shout outs to my boy Pavel Pankov.
Who?
Dennis Bogdan was having a great season for them. They're just so deep, so good.
Who are they supposed to play again in the quarters?
That's a good question.
They were supposed to play Zaksa.
Oh man!
See, I remember that now because
that's such a good series.
Rob had picked them over Dynamo Kazan, which over Zaksa, which I don't know, but it kind of leads credence to my thing from earlier that like Zaksa didn't have to play a first round playoff.
Yeah,
at least Trentino had to play Berlin, right? And then in the second round they had to play their, countrymen in JW, whereas Trentino had to play their countrymen in Perugia. And there's one wasn't expected to win, that one was the other. Just to go back to that. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, Moscow. I mean, again, it's tough. It was tough to judge the Russian teams this season, but I think we would have had them a lot higher if they played more. Number 9, I have Skra from Poland. And I know I was kind of calling the ball in the air there because if they lost Olsztyn, I probably wouldn't have them here. Or calling the ball after it goes in, I guess is the phrase.
Yeah.
But I still Matej Bienik, I think has an argument for up there with Simon for best middle in the world right now. Atanasevich having the bounce back year. Tikoy's kind of sucked, but I can't even imagine how good this team would be with Taylor Sander. It just sucks. But how's he been doing on the beach, by the way? I've been watching.
They've been all right. They were like him and Taylor Crab were the ones who got screwed over last weekend by Norsika.
Oh, and that
with the whole World Championship thing. So I mean, they're getting there. Their first tournament, they got really unlucky because they had to play Bruno Schmidt, who's like in in the qualifier, so they didn't even qualify. But they're bouncing back, and they're going to be a good team for sure.
Right.
It's too early into the beach season.
Yeah,
to,
I just
to,
like
to
this.
know.
I just like the Scraw team. Obviously, they still have the weakness with the second outside, whether it be Robert Todd or Dick Coy, and then libero. I mean, it just sucks that they're stuck with Kakper Paihatsi all this time. Like, can you imagine if Damian Wojciech was on this team? Like, such an improvement. Anyway,
And Taylor Sanders.
But Scraw overall, let's see in this series against Jastrzębski. I'm really looking forward to that. The teams are, I would say there's a bit of a drop off after number 8 for me to this next tier, but Scraw, why not?
I have Berlin because up until now they've dominated the Bundesliga.
The team that just lost
They dominated the Bundesliga
against.
They made it to the quarterfinals of the Champions League.
And the boys.
They made it to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Scraw wasn't even in the Champions League, and they didn't make. Where did they lose? The semis or the quarters of the CEV Cup?
I forget who they lost against. Was it against Zenit Kazan, and then Zenit Kazan immediately got kicked out? Isn't that what happened?
Yeah.
So can't follow them too much for losing to Zenit Kazan.
Still though, I'm gonna hold it against them just because I can, and just for argument's sake.
Yeah.
You've been sweeping things under the rug. I'm just going to ignore things.
I absolutely
completely.
have.
But yeah, no, I think I'm going to go with Berlin because I think they've had a great season. Now, I mean, that's going to take a huge hit if they don't at least win one game here in the Bundesliga finals.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think overall their body of work this season, which I know also contradicts some of the things I've said earlier. I'm gonna go with Berlin.
I considered Berlin too, and also because they, if you remember in the group stage of Champions League, they beat Zenit St. Petersburg twice.
Exactly.
That was probably the most impressive thing for me. And Zenit St. Petersburg, okay, they had like Igor Kluka playing opposite and all this other weird stuff, but still, very good team. Okay, last one before we wrap up here. My last team here, Piacenza. I just kind of went with the team that I thought did the best in the quarterfinals. That didn't, that's not one of the top 4 teams. And Piacenza beat Trentino, who you have as your number 1 team. And actually, that win was they looked pretty good during that. And I think the talents there with Olympic starter Antoine Brizard, Aaron Russell, what's his name? The incredible Francesco Ricine. Yeah. It sucks. Maybe if Adam Lagumzija had been healthy during that series, it could have turned out differently for Piacenza. But a lot of potential on that team. Unfortunately, you're probably not going to see it in the same. Probably switching things up a lot, but we'll see. I still enjoyed this year's Piacenza team.
Fair enough. I like that. I'm gonna go with Tools. Phoebe.
See, you're going to the niche leagues too hard here, Everett.
But you gotta give some love to the niche leagues, and also I went Milano randomly, early on in my list. So
fair enough.
Give me a bit of a break here. But I mean, Tools beat Modena in that run in the CEV Cup.
That was pretty cool.
They were the best team in the French league all year long. And I kind of rate the French league in that second tier of leagues alongside Germany and Turkey.
I definitely put it above Germany for sure, especially this year.
But I think
Turkey versus France, though, that's an interesting.
I think the top end of Germany might be slightly better than France. I think I think Friedrichshafen and Berlin are better than Tours and Montpellier and Caen in most years, even though they're dog shit this year. Yeah. Whereas if the Turkish league, sure, the bottom end is bad, but that top end with Halkbank and Arcus and Fenerbahce and Sport Toto and Galatasaray, especially those 5 clubs, there's a lot of quality when you look at Turkey, right? And
really good foreign. I would say the best foreigners out of those 3 leagues.
Yeah, 100% too. They've got a lot of money to bring in foreigners. It's not quite like it was a decade ago. Back in the early 2010s when they had big names going to play for Turkey and they were making good runs in the Champions League. But
why? So you want to go with a Turkish team here potentially for sure?
No, because they didn't have the same impact on the European level that Tools did.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay,
that's where that was my level. And I mean, hey, if Tools is going to beat a team like Modena, they have to be given at least an honorable mention. So I'm going to throw them in at number 10.
All right. I think that's it for the podcast today, guys. Remember to check out 9x9 on Tuesdays. Unfortunately, I will not be there next week. Also, probably no 5-1 podcast next week. But we'll figure it out. We'll come on for something at some point for content. Yeah. Everett, thank you for joining me today. Anything else you wanna plug here?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time.